Hey, what's up, crew? This is Sean, first-time Texan, long-time power athlete fan. Hey, got a question for you all regarding nutrition and stuff like that. So, my girlfriend and I, we try to work out in the mornings. The problem with that for us is that we tend to get our best workouts like later in the day after we've had a chance to get some good food in us. I know you all tend to work out in the morning. What is y'all's morning nutrition routine? Because I feel like if we just get up and just go straight to the gym, we don't get the best workout. But then if we eat something, we got to kind of hang out and let that digest a little bit. What do you all do for that morning nutrition or stuff like that? Do you tend to work out fasted, find you get a good workout like that, you just got to suck it up? Or I don't know, what do you all feel about that? Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, guys, to recap, because I don't know if Sam and Rob can hear. The guy called in, said he and his girlfriend trained first thing in the morning. They noticed that when they train later in the day, they feel a little bit better, and he thinks it's because they've had some food in them. So his question was, what do we do, or what do we recommend for people that train first thing in the morning? Do we train fasted, or do we eat something, and how does all that work?
Perfect. Yeah. This has been a pretty common question that we've actually seen in emails too. And I think that for a lot of people, like he said that they train better a little bit later in the day, and that is accurate. The more food you have in you, the better you're going to train. You're going to be more fueled. You're going to have a lot more energy and more ready to train. And I think that, in the morning, whatever you can get in that's pretty fast is going to be something that can help you out. And it's going to probably have to be a little trial and error for them to find out what works for them. But I think something like even like a whey protein with even bananas or something like that, something fast absorbing, is going to give them a little bit of energy and not be heavy in your gut and having a ton of digestion going on while you're trying to work out. So you want something that's going to be pretty fast absorbing. Sam?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You don't have to make bacon and eggs for breakfast, before you train. And one thing we talk a lot about with our clients and through email is you also don't want to compromise sleep. So if you just feel, hey, like I feel fine during my working out fasted, but I read somewhere that I should eat, try it, like Rob said, trial and error to see kind of what works with your gut, but also don't compromise sleep, to eat something super heavy and then let it digest for an hour before you train. We would rather you sleep that hour.
For me, I always trained for a long, long time. I trained fasted, and especially if I was going to do any sprinting or like high intensity type work, I would always, because we have always trained, we always trained at 6 a.m. And then when Luke had his daughter, we moved it to 7 a.m. just so that, because he would have to get up at 4 a.m., clean the garage, wash all the cars, fold all of his wife's underwear, and he had to make sure to iron it and put, creases in there. So he couldn't get there before 7, so we pushed the training back to 7, and we've just never gone back to 6 because I'll tell you, 7's way better than 6.
Oh, well, I agree. The coaching during the evenings, I'm back at like 9, so then I get to eat dinner, then I get to crash, so that extra hour goes a long way for it, but I still have a morning routine. Just chug a bunch of drip coffee, pour over, that I like, and then essentially Thorn whey protein in either oatmeal or just smashing some fruit as Rob suggested. So a little carb, little protein, but a lot of coffee.
I've gone back and forth on this for years, and the guy, and it's funny, I asked Dr. Tom about this every time we talk. I'm like, hey, what does the research say about training in the morning versus training at night? Because we're in the middle of the Jack Street Shadow cycles, and so I've been a little late posting it because I've still been testing the workouts. Mm-hmm. So on Friday night, I had to go and test one of the workouts, and I trained at 5 because I just got slammed on the whole day. And I was not nearly as strong at 5 o'clock as I was usually in the morning. And I'd always thought that you were stronger later in the day, but I think it's because I've trained so consistently in the morning. And usually by the end of the day, I'm pretty fucking tired from just looking at a computer and, fighting all of our battles over, Slack and email and all the other stuff. So I find for me, when I wake up in the morning, like I'm more mentally and maybe physically ready to go train if I eat something, but I also know if I eat too much, fucking saps me. So like it has to be just enough. And I think, but you find that through trial and error. I need about 45 minutes. And then once I go, I don't drink coffee until after I train now, because I started getting like heart palpitations where all of a sudden my heart started racing too much.
That's not a good thing.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, I am like, hate the idea of pre-workout.
That's what I did want to tailor into this conversation about the pre-workout. I'm not too concerned about what the research says. I don't promote it at all because of a lot of the mental aspect that you spoke about it, John.
Well, this goes back 10 plus years, but Abajev, who was the Bulgarian Olympic lifting coach, he came to America and he did a presentation on how he would train football players. And it was pretty cool. I got a copy of his talk, which was obviously translated because he didn't speak English, but he actually wrote out a program, and he was really talked about the idea of training in a lower heart rate. So there was like a lower intensity that you would train with, because when you went to competition, you could pick up 8 to 10% in intensity just from like the competition, from being in the moment. And he was very, very cautious about tapping into that in training. And at that point, I was like, okay, so we're done, howling at the moon, fucking beating your head on the barbell and trying to get to a, wound up place. Because unfortunately, after you go there or you start taking pre-workout and you get there every single day, it just fries your adrenals. And then you just can't train at a high level.
Yeah, so it's both physical and mental. Because then, I've witnessed old teammates, NO Explode came out when I was in college. So dudes would juice that up an hour before the game, peak, and then just suck ass once the actual play started. So that's when I got away from it. And then you you affirmed that with your experience, and that like dudes were getting up and then they needed this like it was a freaking drug to get ready to train alone. I couldn't imagine how it translated when they had a game day. Sure.
Yeah, no, I'd be very cautious about taking any pre-workouts. Like, if you want to drink some coffee, obviously that's fine. But I think, it really depends on who you are. I mean, if you're a bacon and eggs and you want to eat, 1,000 calories before you go train, I wouldn't do it like as you're walking out the door, but finding something that's easily digestible. But I'm not kidding you. For years, Tom and I have always talked about, he's like, you almost mentally feel more ready in the morning, but the body's more willing at night. And he always talked about that kind of mixed dichotomy. But I think it's just from the fact that I've trained in the morning, almost my entire life. It's always been a morning ritual thing. So I think you just mentally just get into that mindset.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, and Sam and I were chatting about this before we got on here, was, how are you preparing in your warm-ups? You coming off of just being asleep, are you jumping into, if you're on a power athlete program, you're going to have a warm-up that's set up and there's some prep work. Are you doing some sort of pre warm-up just to kind of get yourself prepared, get that central nervous system kind of fired up? So we were talking about that just before, that maybe that's something you should add in too, is get yourself some sort of pre warm-up. Would you want to expand on that, Sam?
Just to give you a little caveat, I changed all of the programs to have prep. So I used to call them warm-ups, and I stopped using the word warm-up because because we used to say this at the seminar, we need you to do a pre-warm-up warm-up. And now it's like you need to warm up. The prep isn't your warm-up. That's your prep for the deal. You need to do something to warm up. And for me, I ride the assault bike 10 minutes. I do, some... a few different type movements, and you kind of get ready. You do some isometrics, and like you put a little bit of warm up together, and then you hit your prep. So that's why I transitioned to the term prep instead of warm up.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Sam?
Yep. And no, that's one thing I learned from Tex, because it was like, get your chili hot, right? You want to warm up before, get your central nervous system firing before you're hitting anything. I also was a morning warrior, but I would coach the 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. classes. So, those people are rolling out of bed at 4:15 to get to the gym, and it is a different energy than at night, right? But you need to still create the momentum to be able to lift heavy weights. So fueling and warming up.
Yeah, it's much like we're not talking about eating breakfast before you change. We're changing the label of eating a pre-workout meal, or I mean, not a meal's even a terrible word for it, but something in your belly, much like we would redefine the warm-up. And back when I was in coaching college, we called it a mess up because these kids already had their interpretation of a warm-up. So mess up, mobility, elasticity, and stability, just to get them rolling and shock them from what they were used to, whatever the hell high school or personal training program they were coming in from. We can almost take that same approach to the pre-nutrition. It's not like you're eating that whole bacon and eggs. It's just a little bit. We just need a funny phrase like "get your chili hot," but for food.
God,
I was like,
your fucking chili hot thing. I'm like, God damn it.
Well, I did.
It sticks.
It does stick.
I borrowed
And
that.
you're like saying it, and you're like, ah.
Get your chili hot.
I borrowed it. It was Coach Tim Cross at University of Texas. He was he was an offensive lineman, NFL, Coach Tim Cross, and he was
the chili hot coach?
He was a get your chili hot coach. He was that coordinator that really got the locker room going, or if some kid was feeling down.
He was a brother coordinator?
And
was he a white dude or a black dude?
No, he was a black dude. Oh. And then, like, if they needed a mental toughness guy, UT at that time, they changed the weight room every coach, but at the time I was there, they had this back room that was all storage, but then they put some, like, wrestling mats down, some boxing gloves, all that gear back there. And Coach Cross would, if dudes needed extra work or some mental toughness training, they go and spar a little bit. And then, man, we got along great. Get your chili hot was always his thing. If he saw somebody down, and he knew how to read a room. So I learned that from him, and that was one of his calls. But we just need that for now in nutrition.
Well, I think a lot of nutrition, and you guys deal with this on a daily basis, is really just finding out what works for you. And I always think it's funny when people are like, oh, what works for you? I'm like, I'm going to tell you what I do. You might try to mimic it, but at the end of the day, you have to figure out what works for you. I remember there were years where like the thought of like training with something in my stomach was like, oh man, I'm going to throw up. And then I got to the point where I was like, I'm gassing out in these workouts where I didn't gas before, and kind of had to make a slow transition. So that idea of like, you might be this way today, but maybe not in 10 years, you won't be there, because obviously we're not just doing this for 1 or 2 years. We're doing this for decades. This is just the way we do it.
I'm going back. I'm a loaded freight train and I'm right on track.